I'm Sierra.
And I'm Chelsea.
And I'm Spencer.
And this is our
panel video. All right, first we're going to talk about classroom management. Now, what we observed at the Resurrection was that our teacher used a form of building a classroom community to really build her classroom management. The students really respected her, and that just made it so much easier for her to be able to control her classroom.
Right, there was like an open communication, and the kids weren't afraid to ask her questions, and it was almost like a family.
Right. I feel like they were all on the same page when it came to caring about each other, which made it a lot more comfortable and more sensitive to each other's feelings and how they felt on certain assignments and things like that. It just seemed like it was very comfortable, and everyone knew what was going on.
Like the kids felt very safe.
Yeah. The next one is instructional strategies. I believe that when we taught our lessons, our instructional strategies were direct and interactive.
Mm-hmm. What do you mean by direct?
A direct one was more teacher-based, teacher-led. We had PowerPoints. We followed the PowerPoints, gave the information to the children, and the students. If the students needed to chime in on any questions or answers, they could, but it was more based off of what we led them in our lesson. Interactive was more of hands-on group stuff. We did our Reader's Theater.
Right.
Reader's Theater, where they did they would have to break the news of a World War II event, and giving each group an opportunity to say what they wanted to do was really good to include all the groups.
Yeah, I think like the interactive part, I mean, they were able to interact with us while we were teaching. We were able to ask them questions, they could ask us questions. It was very interactive.
Right.
I think the Reader's Theater was awesome, and they were really into it.
Right. It was a really good opportunity to let the kids who weren't always given a voice to give a voice and express themselves in a different way.
I think both of our strategies are very effective.
Right.
I mean,
with
like
a combination.
Right. Like even during our direct with the PowerPoint, I really think that they were into it. Right. I mean, just like they were in the Reader's Theater.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. For our assessment strategy, we used something that steered away from the paper pencil kind of test. We had the kids, after they learned about the Dominican Republic, they had to make a baseball field, and they had to relate their topics in the baseball field back to what they learned about the Dominican Republic. And they demonstrated their knowledge of the culture, of the greenery, which was the plants from the Dominican Republic. We had to do the food, and a mascot, and a baseball player. And the kids had to incorporate some sort of map-making skills, because they had to talk about how to label where something was, such as like the country, comma, and then the country. So it was like city and the country. What do you guys think?
I thought that was really really good interactive. It was really interactive, really good way to test what they learned, because as we walked around and watched what they were doing, they didn't really ask many questions. The only questions they asked were certain baseball players, which it can be pretty difficult, because we didn't want to give them all the baseball players because they would use it. We wanted them to look up some stuff, but they really remembered the plants and the food, and it gave an opportunity for, just like the news broadcast, gave an opportunity for those students who aren't really good speaking in front of people, to really use other ways of being creative, like art and things like that.
And I think that a lot of people, a lot of kids, struggle with the paper tests, and they just feel so nervous. And with assessments like the one we use, they are more comfortable, and they're working in groups, and I mean, they just get their own voice in it. It just makes
I think it clearly demonstrated that where they started and where they ended, it was a big gap. Like, we could clearly assess their learning through a fun way.
Right.
That they enjoyed.
It was really, you could really tell when we were asking questions for the PowerPoint if they knew where the Dominican Republic was, and we had Europe and China and things like that. So their prior knowledge of it was completely nowhere near what, it was non-existent. And what they learned through the activity and things, they were really able to learn a lot, and we were able to assess that with that activity.
Our last category to discuss is planning. And what we have found is that it is vital to communicate throughout your group. We feel like the more you communicate, the more prepared you are, and the better your presentation of the lesson is in general. And the more detailed your planning is, the easier it is also.
Right. We talked a lot beforehand, so we knew as soon as we got in there, we started immediately. There was no wait time. they didn't get off task because we knew step by step by step what we were going to do. How are we going to begin? How are we going to close? And that's all communication. And I think that's a big part, especially with team planning.
Yeah.
And if we didn't have that, I mean, it wouldn't have gone smoothly.
Yeah, communication is key because without communication, we would all be lost in the information. You wouldn't know where to guide it. You would just be, having yourself, what was I supposed to do there? And it was really good with communication. Also, we all knew what each other was going to do. You weren't wondering, well, what am I going to do next, or what are they supposed to do? If it was from changing the PowerPoint slide to who's going to direct this activity, if it's all covered in your communication, then you should really have nothing to worry about.
I don't think we ever felt unprepared at any point.
Right.
We were just prepared for everything.
I mean, if anything, we were over-prepared. I mean, we had note cards of which part you had. I mean, we...
you can never be too prepared.
Yeah, I mean...
For anything, so.
But we planned.
Okay, well, that concludes our panel video.
Thank you.